Hello and welcome to another edition of the Diversified Semantic Layer Podcast. This is Eric Vallow. I'm joined by my friends Jamie Oswald, Derek Larenka. Oh, and Mike Howell. It's a special, not Mentor Monday, but on a Thursday edition of our show. I think we've come together to talk a little bit about, what's been the aftermath of the statement of direction announcements that all took place in February. And so this is the all customer in one ginger with a glorious new beard episode of the show. So customers. Wait, one, two, three. Yeah, okay. So we've all been to conferences since the announcement. Huntington Beach, Las Vegas, South Africa. That's a lot. That's a lot of conferences in a short period of time. But what's the word on the street? You Flash lovers. You, Jamie.
Jamie, go first so I can tell Rebecca to turn the TV down just in case you guys are hearing background noise.
Well, what are we watching?
Yeah,
either Roseanne or Desperate Housewives, and I mean it's a toss up. So
I didn't realize we're 1999 still. Sorry.
Ouch.
No, it just started back. But anyway, I don't know if Jerry's out on if it's good or not.
All right. Well, Trump likes it for whatever that is.
Man, this is gonna be edited heavily. So sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
We're a one take crew. Let's do this.
Awesome.
All right. So honestly, the response I have gotten from most customers are kind of meh, right? Like I think it's the things that were going out of support, people were not surprised by because that's sort of been an open and honest thing for a while now. SAP let us know that those things were not in their long-term roadmap years and years ago. I think that people hadn't gotten too super invested with Lumira Discovery, at least. Designer had more traction, I feel like, than I had expected, which is interesting. And so that's obviously going to live longer. I think the one takeaway I really took was that not a lot of people were, existing customers at least, were, and I should specify, existing business objects only customers were really looking at the cloud from an analytics perspective anyway. So for them, I think it was sort of interesting, but didn't really change much for them today, if that makes sense.
I guess just to jump in, I think like obviously the natural death of Flash wasn't a surprise to us as much, and the fact that they're able to logically just go ahead and put a line in the sand rather on end of maintenance on that was good. I don't think that we had too much of a heavy investment on Flash ourselves, like aside from a couple of Excelsius dashboards, and we'd already actually gone ahead and uninstalled Explorer. I think that you're doing like I know we can't be friends anymore. I know
too soon, Mike.
but for me, like it was actually a little bit of relief with when it came to their statement about Lumira Discovery, just not because we were against Lumira, just like we just kept getting asked about it. So, because as we're measuring all these other or comparing all these other self-serve discovery tools, whether it be Power BI, Tableau, whatever, the topic always came back up. Well, what about this Lumira one that we have already licensed from SAP? And we're like, well, we can compare it, but I mean, once we kind of put it, through its paces, now at least we can just more easily put it to the side and say, well, it's going to get limited enhancements. We don't have to hold our breath. Let's focus on either other vendor tools or let's just keep an eye on SAP Analytics Cloud for data discovery. So it just at least simplifies it even further. So it's not necessarily convergence like SAP's been saying in the past, it's more like it's a very fancy way of saying we're going to put it away, or you know, other people have been, I've heard them say they're killing it or they're cutting off the oxygen, and I mean, but you know, there is still a maintenance timeline, right? But if you're not using it, then you're probably not really that concerned about maintenance.
Well, exactly. Great cameo. You know, it's funny because I've heard two separate camps, which is the folks who are, you know, not tied to the platform, to the classic BOE enterprise stuff. They have one whole opinion of the announcement. But like today, I was at the ASUG Philly chapter meeting where we had our keynote was SAP going over the convergence announcement again. And it looked, for those in attendance, like a bomb had hit. Like blank, ashen faces, like Lumira Discovery's going away. And we had a keynote and we had a roundtable later in the day. We had about a dozen or so customers in the room who, when I asked the question, who had heard of this before today, not a single hand got raised. So when it comes down to like the end user, and most of the folks at a chapter meeting are generally your end users, like your consumers, your, you know, people still plotting through things. You know, we still got people who use the SAP GUI, you know, who come to our meetings type deal. And those folks, it was complete, you know, befuddlement and shock because they hadn't heard. The other half of folks are like, that I talked to, you know, Huntington Beach or at ASUG today were, you know, classic Bob J people who were enterprise users, big BI platform folks who were like, all right, that doesn't really impact us, like you said, Mike, except for the whole, what's the innovation plan for the platform? That is when people decided to mouth started to froth a bit, and they're like, all right, we need info, discussion, tell us. I seem to be, honestly, that was the part that people that I have run into cared about more than the demise of Lumira. Discovery. Designer was an interesting discussion because everyone was using it because of the sunsetting of the, you know, Bex Web, WAD, all that stuff. So folks were like, well, you know, they were of the theory that there's customers using it. Maybe they'll rename it to Design Studio. I know that would make Mike happy.
Yeah.
But until they figure out that whole application part of Analytics Cloud, they're holding firm. But the most interesting part was the question raised was, does anyone think that a web-based IDE will be able to overtake what a desktop IDE does with Designer or Design Studio to pump out application front-end stuff? And that's where the rest of the conversation was. Like, is the thought, is SAP really going to move all of the features from Design Studio, I'll keep saying it that way, to Analytics Cloud? And can it match that IDE environment, match what's on a desktop? And at that point, it was like a whole bunch of geeks.
They did it with Webby. I mean, it took 15 years, but they did it.
Well,
from Badetsky to Webby.
But Badetsky's still not dead yet.
You get till the end of this year, right? So
yeah, well, they say that, but it's going to be zombie, like Jamie says.
And I mean, like, so if you look at their statement of direction, right? Like they do say that like second half of this year that they will have some at least initial equivalent of an application designer in SAC in the cloud. So I think to Derek, to your point, where you ran across people who are using Designer, as we are. We are using Designer, and we're currently continuing to develop in Designer. We're not going to stop anytime soon, because there is a need for not only just a Bex Web replacement for just OLAP, web-based OLAP for BW or the people lucky enough to have HANA, but also just for like even the Excelsius replacement path, right, where it's more of like a dashboard replacement, not necessarily a Bex replacement. So for lack of a better on-premise replacement, just because of our heavy investment in SAP, that's where we're going to continue to put our development investment. So at least, you know, and what I read through the statement and the fact, it it feels like design studio gets like an extra year of innovation or feature improvements, whereas discovery after this year they're going to kind of put it on more of a bug fix roadmap until the end of maintenance. I don't know if you guys kind of read into it differently, but
no, that's exactly how I read it too. But the question is, for you, someone who's built Design Studio extensions and all the other stuff, do you think that? What do you think of the possibility of replicating a Design Studio type development IDE in the cloud to do it in a Chrome browser?
So I know that they're.
Is it something doable? Have you what do you guys think? Do you even think that's doable?
I know that they're talking about it already. Yeah, that's not. I don't think that they're attempting to remove features with the cloud. But
oh no, I don't disagree. But if you think about Design Studio, it's a full blown like development environment.
It is. It is.
And is that duplicable in a cloud environment?
If you're not SAP, then yes. And I don't mean that to be mean. I'm just saying let's see if SAP can do the same, right? Like a good web IDE and a canvas-based drag and drop IDE that's at least like Bill's, maybe better with the script window and the ability to map data sources and all that that very important stuff that comes with it. And the problem, and this might be going down a different road, but or train of thought rather, is some companies like us, we're only just more recently becoming even receptive to cloud applications, like application as a service, platform as a service type solutions like this. So it's just yet another thing we have to pay for. When we just got done renegotiating our BI Suite license, and we're like, okay, well, how long can we go along or limp along with this before we have to go look at something new?
So that's an important thing, though. Like, I kind of like to split this into two threads, right? Because there's this path of, okay, SAP has given us this end of maintenance for the current BI platform, and no, innovation isn't dead. Although Webby is the only thing that I've seen anything roadmappy on of any substance to this point, right? But I'll digress a little bit. So even if you're just starting to look at the cloud as a solution, right? I think on the one hand, if there was a little more information beyond, no, this is just the stated end of maintenance for the current release. So okay, so what are the plans? The second part being, if you're really looking at the cloud as an option, look at how fast the end of Excelsius crept up on us. What are we, year 5, year 6 for Design Studio? And I think there are certainly customers with some pain in deprecating Excelsius content.
Yeah.
Statement.
Yeah.
And so how much longer are you willing to invest in the current platform content dev, knowing how fast 5 or 6 years crept up on us, that the same thing could be true for what you're building in Design Studio today? Like, are you weighing that on?
I think that's really interesting, right? Because we have sort of a couple choices, right? So we can say, okay, Design Studio is what it is. I know that it's going to be enhanced for another year or two, although I'd be curious to see just how much enhancements actually make into that.
Yeah.
So either I can recreate my dashboard content in Design Studio or Lumira Studio for Design or whatever we're calling it.
That just made my head explode. Like, don't repeat that to marketing at SAP, or they'll have some new SKU.
Yeah, but you need to put a comma in there, dude, somewhere.
Like
it needs
addition
a comma.
for
and they're gonna make you buy it again just because it's you, Mike.
Right. Or do I wait another 6 months or a year for SAP Lumira Designer Cloud Edition to be there and just wait and re-platform everything there, right? Like, do I say, okay, here's my short, middle, and long term? Do I say, okay, my my short term is to get to midterm, or do I wait until long term is far enough along and hope that I have enough time?
Well,
but here's a question though. If you're doing all that short, middle, and long term, and you see where your Excelsius money and whatnot has gotten you, where Design Studio has gotten you, do you take the plunge in your long term to wait for whatever's next, or do you put your dashboards in another tool?
Like
bunch of other competitors.
Well, I think there's one thing.
I still have yet to see another competitor that can do the stuff that Excelsius and Design Studio could do in terms of interactivity, custom dynamic visibility, and stuff like that. Like I haven't seen that demo where it looks to me like they're building interactive analytic applications, right? I think that they look great, right? And I think that from a self-serve, easy, slap it together dashboard type environment, I think that they can do that. A lot of them can do that. I haven't seen one that can let you push your applications as far as either Excelsius or Designer.
So I think though, it's sometimes we have to take our like if we're talking about like just industry alternatives, right? Like a lot of times I know I fall in the trap of constraining myself to, okay, it's got to be a BW data source. I can only look at things that work with BW.
No, they're deprecating that. Did you not read that in the roadmap?
That's another DS Layer podcast. Like
triggered.
But
we're not gonna talk about that. No, but go on.
But I didn't hear Eric, but I'm sure. But the same thing with HANA, right? So like if HANA is your data source, you're gonna you're gonna be a little sensitive to what the data sources are there. I think though, if you just looked at it, I hate the word holistically, but just like across the board, there may be applications that are more business friendly that can let you drag drop similar to Excelsius. I couldn't name them off because again, I'm kind of myopic to just BW and universes, so I've got to look at only what matters for my company. So it kind of boxes you in to some limiting vendors as a result. So the second thought though was there's the whole what if game, right? So it's either if this. Well, I mean, we can go into analysis paralysis about SAP's. They may steer the ship yet another direction. I mean, I feel like they've thrown stuff at the wall to see what sticks with cloud before. Who knows if this is like even a bigger bet and they're just really, or if they're gonna like what happened to Lumira Cloud, right? I mean, like that's gone. So we're kind of at least at our company taking a little more. Okay, yeah, we know this new thing's coming. Yeah, we hear you, SAP. Yeah, we know what the maintenance is. We're going to do what's working for us, and Designer is working for us, and we're just going to focus on that until something else feels right. And SAC doesn't feel right. I mean, for a couple different reasons, like maturity. It's a young product. It's cloud, which scares some people, and you get the live data source thing that moving data in, or how do you blend it on premise? That's a whole nother mess. So we're good with what we have for Designer for the most part, and we're just hopeful that we can get as much mileage out of what we invested in before they cut off new feature enhancements.
So maybe a question.
Well, how many new features do you have in Designer that you can't replicate with an extension?
I'm sorry, say that again, Jamie.
What new features do you need out of Designer that you can't build into an extension if you're pressed, right? Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't know what else they would do with it.
So there's a couple of things, right? I mean, and some of them are such low-hanging fruit. Like it's like, okay, if I have a script that takes longer than 10 seconds, it's not configurable and my dashboard will crash. Make it a setting. Like, our company knows our requirements better than our vendor does. Like, let's just open that up. So some of it's configuration related. Some of it is, let's just improve developer quality of life in some ways. From what we've experienced, it's a whole different conversation. But you know, ever since SP4 Business Objects 4.2, there's been some software client side things that could improve. But in terms of actual features, it's to answer your question, Jamie, it's very minor what I would ask for, and it's more selfishly on the SDK side, just because, you know, I dabbled in that quite a bit. But I think, well, one good example though for an actual just regular designer would be like, just let them write out raw HTML like a webmaster does. I mean, these guys have to require it's.
Did you say webmaster?
Yeah, I'm sorry, web developer. Let me get off the 20th century and come 21st.
1999.
Dude, I mean, I go way back, so sorry. But the point is if on one hand, these guys expect you to be able to write CSS rules to format your dashboard. On the other hand, they give you no ability as a designer to write your own raw HTML. And yeah, there's some security considerations about how do you strip out, you know, bad HTML, malformed, or you know, something that could possibly inject JavaScript. But I think that should be a configuration setting too, just because everybody that I've met, like either in IP who has Googled how to do HTML or even outside of IP, has ended up downloading our community extensions just for the HTML injection extension. And so if people are doing that to shim up their dashboard to get something done, that should be a message to SAP. Just give us that. Like, give us an official version of that. Make it better than whatever I did.
Now, can you inject Flash into?
So hold on, stop. That's just mean.
Jamie,
listen, we're way far in the weeds on Design Studio.
But yeah, we can come back up.
Mike needs a
ask the question.
But so I think that the takeaway here is Jamie's right. If you look at Design Studio, it's a more advanced WYSIWYG dashboard development tool.
Yeah,
fair enough, right? And so you're right. There's got to be an intersection of that also in SAP Analytics Cloud. I think we're all saying the same thing. But I think that when you guys look at SAP Analytics Cloud from a maturity standpoint, like it is even the remotest of possibilities, are you looking at it and measuring it beyond that data discovery use case that's sort of that sudden shift? Like, are you looking at it for the replacement of reporting, dashboard, data discovery, the whole 9 yards? Like, you know, we're used to working with tools in compartmentalized ways, right? Webby and Crystal for reporting, Design Studio, Excelsius for dashboards, Lumira and Explorer for data discovery. What's your take on the pace of change for SAP Analytics Cloud for those three?
So I think, to SAP's immense credit, they have, at least not that I've ever heard, even once talked about SEC being a reasonable replacement for a reporting tool. Sure. Right? Like, nobody's talked about taking away Crystal. Nobody's talked about taking away Webby. I know. And so my brain is definitely not there, right? So when I look at Analytics Cloud, it's for some portion for that data discovery piece. It's some portion for the inherent mobile light just looks and feels more consumery than our on-premise tools do. And I am interested to see where the scripting comes in, right? For the Design Studio replacement, whenever that is sort of ready in a couple years. So that's what I'm interested in. I can't imagine a scenario where I get to turn off my BOE servers.
So I guess just to challenge you a little bit on that, hold on, sorry. You know, data discovery, the thing that arguably munges through the most data, right? Bajillions of rows of data, mashing it up. Like, does it make sense to you that your analytical layer lives in a different place in a different time zone than the data layer?
Oh, no.
Okay, asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
I mean, there's benefits, right? I mean, your application just automatically has new features like Gmail. You come in one day and you've just got new functions. I mean, there's no change management, I guess, behind that. But I mean, it's a different world that from a consumerization standpoint that we're living in versus what we get to have ultimate control over on premise. So there's good and bad to that, right? I mean, as long as SAP can do these releases successfully and incrementally, like every 2 weeks, I heard, they've got like these new rollouts, and you get a what's new thing that flies up in your face, and you're like, okay. I mean, that's an interesting way of going about it, and I guess depending on how your organization is receptive or conditioned to, just accept this new pace of change, it's just something that, like, us as a traditional mill products company, that would be a change in itself to move to that. I'm actually kind of more interested in what you guys think, not to hijack anything that Eric's got on the bulleted list to discuss about what SAP's statement in their statement of direction or their or in their fact was about how they've stated the extended maintenance for 4.2 SP5, right? Up until whenever, but they said they're going to decide later this year whether or not there's going to be a new minor point release, like a 4.3, that we could continue to kind of like bank on a further trajectory for maintenance. We're kind of like,
I was kind of open for too.
Are you open for a 4 point? Or I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying the same thing. I'm hoping for a glimmer of what we have in mind for, beyond 4.2. Give customers some confidence, like Jamie, that doesn't see the end of BOE and anywhere in his roadmap, right? That there is going to be something there, supported, innovated, whatever.
Yeah, I'll be frank. That's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on, whether we're going to call it SP97 for 4.2, SP5, or SP6, wording, what are those innovations going to entail? I understand the legal and maintenance wordings behind calling things a point release versus a service pack and all that other fun stuff. I get it. I think sometimes, and I definitely think in the FAQ and the statement of direction, they were a little too in the weeds on that. Your general end user customer doesn't care if it's a 4.2 SP6 or if it's 4.3. What they care about is, and what I care about is, are we going to continue to innovate? What that hybrid connector really, really is. How does it function? Because if you're even thinking about adding Analytics Cloud and you have a platform, you're going to need that hybrid connector. That is really, really important. And frankly, with Sapphire ASUG annual conference coming up in June, they need to, shore up the community, knowing that folks at the end of the year, depending on where they go, may have decisions to make. Yeah. When it comes to reporting, plain and simple. I'm normally I'm the fun guy. I'm the frank. I'm not the doom and gloom guy, but analytics and reporting have proven that, at least in my organization and my company and my industry, are separate yet equal endeavors. Yeah. They're two different tool bases, two different user bases, two different end goals, but neither are going away. So I need innovation on both. I see, and we have their statement that they're going to innovate on the analytics side. We have the statement that they are going to continue to innovate on platform, but they're not quite sure how that's going to be yet. For me, I'm in the wait and see camp because I need to see what the wait and see is going to be. Because,
I want to ask you the same question that I asked Mike, but for the platform, so yeah, obviously they need to make sure that it works with cloud, right, on some level. Mm-hmm. But what new features do you need on the platform, right? Is anybody dying for the Fiori Launchpad? I think that's interesting.
Well, no, not necessarily the Fiori Launchpad, but yes, they're looking to modernize the look and feel.
Where's the Angular Launchpad? I'm sorry.
There are some that need to, there are some features that are nice to have. More. We still have stability issues, regardless of your. There's still quality issues coming out of the platform. So there's things that need to be ironed out for continued use. But if I'm going to continue to invest, or if I want to move on to something else, where I'm going to spend my money, it's going to matter. Do I spend my money in what I have now, and I don't have a solid roadmap? Or where do I spend my money on moving to something else that has a more solid roadmap? There's some instability in the messaging.
And let's all be clear, right? I mean, if you're at a position where you need to say, Lumira Discovery is not the data discovery tool of my dreams, as it exists today or will exist at the end of the year, and I am going to look at SAP Analytics Cloud for that functionality, like, you would not be doing due diligence for your organization if you did not also look at Tableau and Click and Power BI and everything else.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you have to look at that. Now, I still think that depending on your organization and infiltration and data sources and et cetera, like, Analytics Cloud may be the right option for you. It certainly has some benefits that some of those other things don't have, but you have to look, right?
Yeah.
I just, to me, I want SAP to spend whatever they are going to spend on premise in terms of technology investments. I don't care a ton about innovation on anything. I just want it all to work better and faster and smarter and be easier to maintain, and that.
Well, see, the funny part is I consider them innovations, Jamie. That's the thing. That is innovation. That's not just maintenance. Maintenance, making sure the lights just stay on. But, streamlining the code base, making things run better.
As someone who opens a lot of tickets around Explorer and dashboards, I can tell you that there are multiple levels of maintenance, and Webby and Crystal right now are the gold standard on those things.
It's funny. I guess like the double-edged sword of it though is when you start going from on-premise into cloud, and you start considering SAC, right? Because it's a strategic vendor about all of ours. Is okay after you get legal and your info security guys to just pacify them enough to do a POC or whatever. That also opens the box to all the other non-SAP vendors that also have cloud solutions. So how far further or behind are like, let's say, Power BI or Tableau Cloud in terms of offerings and cost and all those things once you go that route. So it's like, okay, so we have this comfortable SAP ecosystem inside of our on-premise. And so now SAP is going to say, if you want the good stuff, you're going to have to go to cloud. Okay, well, that's a conversation that we're going to have with our IT infrastructure guys no matter what. So as soon as you open that up, all right, we're going to look at SAP, we're going to look at Microsoft, we're going to look at Tableau, we're going to look at everything that's cloud. And so that's where, like, I just hope that SAP recognizes that they really need to be on it, and they need to innovate.
Game.
Do it very quickly, because we're looking at all of them. If we're going to look at cloud, we're going to look at everything. That's
and
just
I think
how the process works.
I agree with you.
You want them to take away their design studio on-prem developers and put them in the cloud right now? Is that what I'm hearing you recommend?
No, I mean, like, you could make that joke and say, like, we're going to go infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. No, we're not going to do that. But, like, I mean, like, you go SAC, right? That's an application or a platform as a service thing. And it's like, you can't have it unless you go on cloud. No, like, for our on-premise things that we own or we feel like we own, that'll stay where it does until they tell us that we can't anymore for some weird reason. But no, like, if they're going to put all the new stuff in the cloud, then we're going to look at all the cloud, right? So
now, so that brings up a good point. So one thing I think that we are pretty guilty of is when we evaluate Analytics Cloud, we only evaluate the visualization side of it, right? But there are other pieces there. right? There's predictive, there's planning, there's some other things, and I'm sure that there will be more on that coming forth. Like, is that of interest to you? Like having a place where you can do those things together? Is it mature enough for your
it's
citizen
funny.
Facebook data scientists?
It's all I can say is like I met one other guy, or I was introduced to one other guy in the same industry that we're in. They're actually I don't know if they're a competitor or whatever, but like they are using Analytics Cloud for planning. But we have already bought BPC for planning, and we also own integrated planning for BW. And so, like, if we were to approach our folks that have a checkbook in our organization and say, oh well, yeah, we need here's the new hotness. Here's where you should do your business planning consolidation. They'd be like, where's your business case? Don't we own this other thing that we bought 20 billion years ago or whatever? So it's a hard conversation to ask, and it's multifaceted because of technology and roadmaps and everything else. And I think it depends on the how long in the tooth you are as a traditional SAP customer. But for us, it's like we just got BPC like 2 years ago. It's going to be a non-starter.
Mike, I'm hearing a bit of a trend here, and it sounds to me like BW is really holding you back. I feel like
so. Can you retweet that and like just make that into a Vine video, and like put it on repeat like a billion times, and then send it to our CTO? Yeah, my opinion only goes so high. So, but like okay, so I will say this though.
BW apologist going here.
No, so along that same line though, right? Like we were both in South Africa, and not to make it a South Africa recap, but it was interesting that some people actually, like Ferreira Candy, right? They actually removed BW and they replaced it with HANA as a data warehouse. So that was, I don't think us as a 14-year BW customer would go that route just because there's a lot of custom logic in it. But it's interesting to see people, use HANA just as a pure data warehouse with traditional SAP backend systems in the mix. So no, I hear you. Like if I could, BW, we'll keep an eye on it and see if it's going to continue to evolve or what it's going to do. But that's a bigger decision than I can make. Definitely at my company.
So just curious, one of the big things that SAP touts about SAP Analytics Cloud today is interoperability and simplicity with Concur, Ariba, Success Factors. Are any of you guys customers of those platforms as well? Or are you just truly agnostic?
We use Concur and Success Factors, but I don't even know what Ariba is, to be completely honest.
We Concur and Ariba for us. And while the promise of that, is still there, there's not a whole, those folks that Concur and folks have their processes and they do their thing. The Ariba folks do their own thing. So, while I understand the push and the allure of the whole combination platter thing, it's, at least there's a lot of folks who aren't there yet. So it might be an allure, but it's not a selling point. It's a nice to have. It's like, oh, well, yeah, maybe that we could try to do that at some point in the future.
I think that the hope that SAP ERP customers should have is, there should be ease of access to things like S/4HANA and BW for HANA and all those things. But, the cross section of customers here that obviously represents, the important ones. That's
Sorry.
That's not.
You said that with a straight face almost.
I just ruined all our credibility, didn't I?
Stepping his troll game up.
But anyway, where I was going is, if you look at the cross section of customers that maybe don't power their business with SAP, feeling a little left out in the cold, Jamie and Derek.
I don't know that I feel comfortable saying that, right? Because I am still a strategic. I still use SAP Analytics very strategically, right? Like the things that I have from them, I use and I generate just a ton of business value. And it's because I can do things like integrate it with my other applications, because I can pull data from anywhere and combine it in there and serve it up in any number of ways. So while the tools that I use to do that can change, the construct and that value creation, I don't think has to, right? And so to me, I still feel like even though I'm not an SAP customer, it's still a strategic choice for me to be an SAP Analytics customer, if that makes sense. Like, and I will, like I said, everybody should, right? I will go and evaluate everything else that's out there. But you know, if SAP Cloud integrates with really well with my on-premise solution, then that checks a box for me.
All good.
Right? If it allows me to leverage my HANA investment even more, that checks a box for me. If it allows me to easily get predictive into the hands of my operational leaders, that checks a box for me.
You know, so coming from the fact that, you know, on my side of the house where I don't have any HANAs compared to Janie, and I don't have.
How'd you sneak on here, man? Like what?
I know, seriously.
What century are you living in?
Well,
I'm rocking the 90s, baby.
It was 50% HANA attendance, so me and Jamie snuck in.
Yes. You know,
or me and Derek.
To answer Eric's question,
take another swig of that water, Mike.
Yeah, it's complete water, not fire water at all.
You know, to think of it this way, that what the announcement has given me is the ability to safely prioritize and set up my roadmap the way I was thinking it was going to go. It's the only thing that's laying out is how do I integrate my platform, which is my core strategic reporting and desktop ETL tool, with my strategic data discovery tools, which are not SAP tools.
Yeah.
So Analytics Cloud doesn't really play into my future plans for data discovery. As well as probably for some other customers like mine who don't have any HANA, don't have any ERP. But playing well with my on-premise investment is going to be key going forward. How well does it play? Can I get it to play? Do I have to build the playground myself? But if I can get that to work, my investment is safe. I'm happy. My management is happy, and my users are happy, and therefore that's not a bad thing.
You know, it's so funny because, like, I think you can only get so far with cloud while keeping your data where you feel it's safe on premise. And I think that they're masking some of it with reverse proxy, whatever. But then the other part of it is they have this little agent that has to run on premise to actually start doing this live data blending to a degree. And, oh, by the way, that agent has to be updated every once in a while in order to receive new features.
Is it Flash-based?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's
totally.
It's Visual Basic. Sorry.
VB6.
Yeah, VB6
runs on IE6.
But the point is, it's like it's almost like you wonder how much of it actually of that processing power can you push to the cloud with the illusion of keeping your data on-prem. Before what I feel, I'm going to make a prediction, and I'll probably be proven wrong. You guys can like cite me on it later. Is that I think that Analytics Cloud will eventually be a mostly on-premise solution for that blending and processing need that you just cannot pump into the cloud and then do all up there and then pull it right back down. So It's like the whole live data connection blending, right? Like so today you have to do it like you can do data blending in the cloud and keep it as a live connection on premise, but it has to be only in the same HANA database. So like, why wouldn't you do a calculation view? Like, I mean,
so I think there's an argument for analysts who have that you want to be able to combine data sets in an analysis, but don't want to give them modeling rights. So I do think there's a use case
though in Analytics Cloud than it is in HANA Studio or just CalcView Builder. Is the modeler good?
I'm assuming that it works just like merging in Web Intelligence, where you
like merge
queries. No, is that not? Am I not reading that right?
No, I don't know. Like last time I tried to use the modeler, I couldn't figure it out.
I'm glad we're all speaking from such a position of authority on this subject.
No, and we're not. No, but
because we're all chicken.
No. So the point though, Eric, is like we're all coming in like a user would to it from a self-serve data discovery perspective, coming into it cold. And if you can't figure it out without reading a manual, then you've already lost, right?
Yeah. Totally agree.
I think that's one thing I know I've got your back 100% on, and that's when I brought up the hybrid model to data security or other folks. They're like, "Can you describe it?" I'm like, "I got a document," and they're like, "That's great. We can read." I'm like, "It's got pictures," and at that point it becomes Jane sees cloud. Dick sees cloud, run up cloud, disappear into cloud. And I'm like, that's not very helpful. So at the end of the day, I think that clarity, and that's part of what I was talking about with getting the tools to work together is going to be, crucial come June, in my opinion.
And not a checkbox work together, right? Like,
no.
So it's not like now you can connect to Analytics Cloud from Webby or Analysis for Office to connect to your cloud models that you don't have anyway. But like a true deep integration, interoperability integration. And that's what was promised to us even when the Design Studio Lumira convergence happened. And that did not happen. That wasn't even mashed potatoes. That was just like, just shove some green beans next to like your hash browns and just said, like, no, this will be. I mean, it wasn't like what they said that it was going to be, and I really feel bad for the guys who bought into it. But so I mean, like what we've heard in the statement of direction for SP6 and 7 for 4.2, it's going to be about cloud interop. So I'm curious about what specifically that will actually contain. Is it just like more hooks and APIs for authentication? Is it going to include more data plumbing?
And where do those hooks exist? You would just install this agent on your Tomcat server. Install this jar file here.
If it's more agents, you might as well just pull that all back on-prem. So that's the point, right? Like you can't push all the logic into the cloud without pumping your data in the cloud. So at least that's our take on it.
So, but I think that will be driven by customer interest, right? I mean, that's what all of this stuff is driven by, right? Like customers didn't really bite on 1.3 or 1.x Lumira, right? So they said, okay, well, we're going to reimagine it as 2, right? And then customers, for whatever reason, haven't really jumped on that. And so it's moving into SAC, right? But I do think that SAC is more strategic than that, right? Like I can't imagine SAP stops investing in that, right? I mean, it's just that's where everything is going. So they're not going to pump the brakes on that investment anytime soon, right? And it's not like they can acquire their way into that because there aren't that many, if any, real enterprise analytics players.
Yeah, and I'm okay with them putting the investment in there as long as it's not 2 guys and a goat making sure that platform
bingo, Derek.
Gets a patch and gets some loving. Like if they're just leaving the farm At that point, the customer investment is all right. Where am I going to spend my money? Product that's on the vine or product that's not on the vine. So we as of now we have the commitment that it's that
spend my product that used to be on the vine and was then fermented and bottled.
I know.
So
and then Flash died.
Kickstarter for Explorer, like HTML5 Explorer.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo,
GoFundMe page. So one last question, because we're starting to run a little bit long here, fellas.
Sorry.
That's Mike's fault.
Sorry.
I'm empty.
And
then the bottle too.
You guys made me forget my last question.
Good.
Blue.
So, well, maybe instead before Jamie falls asleep sitting up.
I've never seen him do that ever.
Let's
Ever.
maybe a recap. Oh wait, no, I just remembered my question. Hold on. This isn't a good one.
Go.
So for you guys that are in fact looking at a multi-tool strategy, is something like Analytics Hub, SAP Analytics Hub, interesting and compelling to localize content into one user experience? So people are just chucking stuff in there manually. How does that work? How do you make it easy for the business to get content regardless of where it was authored?
We have SharePoint. Just let a site administrator of their little sub-site deal with, curating open doc links or links to Tableau. I don't see Analytics Hub adding any value to anything personally. Like, it doesn't do SSO, right? So
yeah, it does. It actually does.
It does now.
LDEP and Kerberos and STS, SNC, SS, all of them.
And also there's a difference between what it does today as a 3-month-old product and what it will do a year from now once they've taken all the discovery and explorer engineers.
So take Analytics Hub out of the equation for a second. So Mike gets off his high horse. I'm just kidding, Mike.
It's not that.
It's a little pony.
Eric's Mike is.
Well, it's only because of the shirtless Eric incident. I'm a little.
And Derek's gonna go over here. There's Eric.
No,
Mike's high horse eat the hair off of your chin?
I could feel his musk.
My point of my question is, so you've solved for it, Mike. You feel like user experience isn't suffering by having multiple tools. Got it.
No.
Derek, what about you?
So I'm actually high on Analytics Hub. I will say that the promise is there, and it's something that we're discussing because we don't have a solution like Mike's where people are doing that type of metadata and documentation now. So if there's a tool that will allow us to
you say documentation? Don't quote me on that part, but yeah, keep going.
All right. Make it a title. There you go. Writing a title of something. We don't even do that. But if the promise of Hub is deliverable by SAP, it is something that I know I'm interested in the fact that then I have one place for my multi-tool strategy. If it can scan my competitor server and document names and descriptions of things, and then my platform for the same thing, and I have one place to send users for even a simple table of contents type deal, no screenshots for security, however we want to log it. For me, that does have promise because I don't want to be in the business, at least we've tried to have users do what Mike kind of described, and it drove me to this thing in the cup.
I mean, that's why I'm drinking, just to be clear. Mm-hmm. I don't know how Analytics Hub helps. I'll just counter with that.
Curated content, right?
Curated content, and
you're doing it through SharePoint
or what? I mean, I don't understand, but it just seems like a link aggregator that's managed by somebody who needs to be tasked to do it, right?
So I got us hung up on SAP Analytics Cloud. I guess I was talking about solving the problem as a whole, which you stated you've done. You've done it with SharePoint, and I get it.
That's what the business is comfortable with because that's where all their documents and their transactional blah blah blah.
That's blahs.
Yeah.
So
I
think
have them
part of
too.
the-
They suck.
So do you run your BW on SharePoint?
You're triggering me, but no, I'm not. No, that's managed by a BSP application for any BW viewers, by the way. But no, that's they know how to get to that.
Which is run on Windows XP.
All right. So on that note, let's bring this to a close with a recap. Tell me if I missed anything. We'd like to hear a little more out of SAP about what exists beyond the published statement of direction and maintenance cycle
For on-premise.
on-premise customers. Yes.
Yes.
We'd like to learn more about innovations and not just compatibility with SAP Analytics Cloud.
Check.
Remotely interested, and remotely.
Remotely.
I mean, because if you have to weigh it, right? Like I'm trying to self-weigh it. I mean, we're on premise for a while until there's just a deal breaker that just sends us to the cloud. So that'll probably be longer than like Derek and Jamie for us.
Fair enough. And on premise is still strategic for lots of customers and should probably still be strategic for SAP in some way, shape, or form.
Check.
In the long run.
Yeah.
Amen.
Webby's not going anywhere here. I mean,
Nope.
never. I mean, we'll probably run it out of maintenance if that's what they did.
Frankly, I want to enhance my semantic layer usage and control my data access through the magic.
You should get HANA then, because it's a better semantic layer.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's the wine talking.
I'm not biting the troll bait.
Buying the troll bait. Remember, my dream: universe for everybody.
Yeah.
And then I can connect whatever the heck I want to it, and I will gladly put Analytics Hub on top of that as my index. And then I have employee for life until I get retired.
But then there's reality, and then like what's practical?
Thanks for crashing my reality.
I'm
Mike.
sorry, but like it's what's practical. You know, how can you be pragmatic with your own timelines and maintenance and your own BI roadmaps, right? I mean, it's like, you know, there's what's on a slide, and then there's what you can actually accomplish, whether it's what you believe in or what you believe won't happen, or change control boards or all this other mess that you have no control over. And then there's something somewhere in the middle that might be like a half broken holy grail. And I think that's the best that you can aspire to.
Well, I think you have that right now behind you in the VR goggles. Just put them on.
Well, that's yeah.
And, and enter the virtual reality that everything works.
That's BI Nirvana right there.
Exactly. Everything works, and I can touch my data.
Yeah, I can grab my data.
Touch my data.
Yeah.
That's assault. All right.
Depends on whose data it is.
It's my own data.
You're a wonderful cross section of customers globally. I'm sure. I'm sure this episode is going to have a profound impact on the next statement of direction. Thank you guys. Always good to talk to you.
Love y'all.
Go Birds.
Love you.
Peace.
This podcast is hosted and sponsored